Okay, welcome back to another episode of Us Anxious Folk. I am here with Sarah from Melbourne, who has kindly volunteered to come and share her experience with postpartum depression. So, welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Very happy to be here on this beautiful Tuesday. Tuesday? Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it's like that. What day is it?
Yeah, you never know.
Yes. Yeah, we haven't I don't think we've had any guests on the podcast with talking about this topic. So I'm really excited to start. So without further rambling,
Okay.
please share with me
Oh
your story.
God, how my story. So, just a little bit of, I suppose, background. So I have kind of had a bit of low-level anxiety all my life. Nothing too significant. I've kind of been on a lightest version of a medication, an SSRI, since probably I was in my mid 20s. Always been happy with it. When I got pregnant, I decided to stay on it because it was quite a low dose. And I thought, you know what? It might be a bit tough. So I thought the doctor was fine with it and I decided to stay with it. I've had a very privileged life. Sorry if you could hear that. I've had a very privileged life as far as happily married parents, brought up really well, no significant trauma. So all the anxiety I've kind of ever had, I think, has kind of just been like life, if you will. So nothing like niggling in the background, if you will. It's just always kind of taken the edge off. I'm a big, I guess, supporter of medication. I think life is hard enough. We can just help ourselves if we can. And so, yeah, so that's kind of, I guess, leading into it. So I am married to someone who has three other children. So I've got three stepchildren, teenage boys, a 9-year-old stepdaughter. My husband's a bit older. So when I suppose, went into having a baby, we kind of always knew we'd probably only have one. Certainly knew we wanted to do it. Obviously, there's a bit going on in our life. I got naturally pregnant about 8 months after trying, which is not too bad. I would say my pregnancy, all in all, was pretty uneventful. Stayed pregnant. I've only had one pregnancy. It was all pretty healthy and safe. I had some high blood pressure, so I went on some aspirin early on. And when I went off that aspirin at about 37 and a half weeks pregnant, my blood pressure went off. So I ended up being induced at 38 and a half weeks.
Mhm.
Um, so I went to hospital, got induced. I was there for a few days because the induction was delayed a day and it took a while. My labour itself, I laboured kind of somewhat naturally and then with an epidural for about 18 hours. My son David, wasn't going anywhere. I got to about 6 centimeters and eventually had an
I'm not coming out.
emergency. Yeah, he's like, in hindsight, he's got a ginormous head, so I kind of understand it. He came out via emergency. Well, it's not emergency. It was just ended up being, hey, have a cesarean. He wasn't in distress or anything. So by then, I'd been in hospital about 5 days. You don't sleep a lot in hospital. I'd had an epidural. I'd had gas. I had endone.
Mhm.
Um, my birth was, again, not traumatic. I would say I was quite laid back. I had no plan. I was happy with it. The care was great. My mum was there. My husband was there. Everything was good. He came out. I was fine, but again, I was really tired. So I think when you've been in hospital for 5 days, we breastfed. I was there for about 2 or 3 days, ended up going home. The first 3 days, I was like, I've got this. I'm
Mm.
like, guys, don't worry about it. I remember my friend sent me a message saying, how are you going? I was like, we're great. We're amazing. I was like,
Yeah.
breastfeeding, so good. He's amazing. David is a very easy baby. I'll give that hindsight. He still is. He's always been a pretty easy child. I think, there's very much the argument of nature versus nurture, but I think by nature he's quite calm.
Mm.
I've never had the experience of having to drive all night to make him sleep. He never cried for hours on end. He's always
Mm.
just been chill, if you will, just like my husband. So he was born on a Tuesday. By that Monday, I went down really fast. I don't remember exactly, other than I felt really sad. I've never been depressed. I've always had elements of anxiety, that shortness of breath kind of feeling
Mm.
slightly edgy, but I've never been depressed.
Yeah.
And what happened was full scale depression. So I'm of the Jewish faith, and on that Monday, so David was 6 days old, we organised a circumcision. The rabbi came to our house, and I remember being like, I don't care. Like, I really wasn't a big fan of David's. Like, I didn't want to hurt him, I didn't want to harm him, but I was a bit more just like, all right, this guy in my house, but I'm
Yeah.
not really bothered by him. And so that Monday, I was just low, like I was just sad. And I think the number one pet peeve I have, and I always say to women now, is the term baby blues. It makes me just very angry
Mm.
because it minimizes what could be really potentially dangerous and really big feelings, to be like, you're just a little bit blue because you've had a baby. Now,
Yeah.
there might be a hormonal correctness as far as, yeah, you do go through a hormone drop, so you are probably going to be a bit sad, or,
Mm.
but I think the reality of probably what most women feel is so much bigger than that. And I say to women now when they've had first time babies is, if you cry for more than 2 days, go to a doctor.
Mm.
Like, you, that's just, it's big. I stopped eating. That's the first time that's ever happened to me. And by stopped eating, I mean that I couldn't swallow food. So I remember trying to eat toast and I couldn't like chew it. Like, I
Mm.
couldn't get it down. So I was eating smoothies. I was crying. I just couldn't feel joy. Like, I felt no happiness. And I remember just being like, I've ruined our lives. I remember saying to my husband, we could have had everything. We could have had kids and we could
Mm.
have had freedom. And I've
Mm.
ruined our lives.
Mm.
And it was just the worst. I eventually stopped breastfeeding, first of all, because I wasn't eating. I had no supply. And apparently, I had low supply to start with. So the midwife came to my house, ironically. So I got really depressed on the Monday. The Wednesday, a lactation specialist came over, and the Monday, a maternal child health nurse had come over, and I'd pretty much been like, I'm okay.
Mm.
Like, I'm a bit tired. By Wednesday, I was completely full gone. And the lactation specialist came around. She was like, well, we don't need to worry about lactation because there seems to be a bigger problem here.
Yeah.
So we put David on a bottle. Now, my husband is extremely experienced parent.
Mm.
All of his children have had formula.
Yeah.
So he was like, we're formulaing it. And I remember I'd been crying on David's head, like trying to breastfeed him. And I remember thinking, well, this can't be good for anyone.
Yeah.
So my decision to stop breastfeeding was easy, to be honest. I didn't care enough about David at the time to worry about his nutrients. It was like,
Mm.
just feed him, like
Mm.
whatever. I think I tried pumping for a day, but just the administration to figure it out, I just didn't have the capacity. I
Yeah.
wasn't eating, so I didn't even have the capacity to be building milk. So what my husband did was, he said, for 2 nights, I'm going to take the baby and I need you to go into a different room and sleep for 2 nights.
Mm.
I'll stay up with him, but I think apparently he had done that for his ex-wife for all 3 children.
Yeah.
It was like, you can't figure out how you feel this tired.
Yeah.
So once you have 2 nights sleep, you might feel better. I was at a doctor's office by the Friday. So I had gotten very depressed on the Monday, and I was in my doctor's office by the Friday saying, I'm not good.
Mm.
And we doubled my meds, and I was fine by the Monday. So this was like a week.
Mm-hmm.
So a very intense period. I think a lot of people were very worried because I'm an oversharer. So I remember, people wanted to come and visit me.
Mm.
And I remember saying, the only people I want to visit me are people who have had babies, so mums,
Yeah.
because I said they'll understand. And they did. So
Mm.
the first people I had, even the first 2 weeks, so even once I'd slightly recovered, was people who had had babies. So they could understand when I said, this is the actual worst.
Mm.
And they're like, oh, yeah, no, it is. It's the worst. Did you not? And I said,
Were you not
yeah.
expecting that?
Like, yeah. And I'm like, there's actually no part of this I'm enjoying, even when I was well. So
Yeah.
even when I had increased my medication, I was a bit like, Like, what am I doing here? What is this?
Mm.
Why would anyone want this?
Mm.
And I remember saying when I was, in that week of being very low, I said to my husband, people have more kids, so it must get better.
Mm.
Like, people have heaps.
Mm.
Surely it must get better. And that was something I kept telling myself, as to remind myself that it must.
Yeah.
But I wasn't a big fan of David's. I think 6 weeks is how long it took me to, what I would say, get on board. I
Okay.
was never a threat to him. I was never a threat to myself. None of that. I just was a
Yeah.
bit like, whatever.
Mm.
And I remember sitting on the couch one morning with him going, you know what? I chose this. I
Mm.
wanted it. I really tried for it. I'm going to just get on board because it's time to stop, I suppose, resenting this tiny person.
Yeah.
And I think that probably comes around the time they start smiling.
Mm.
And I tell that to all first time mums now, 6 weeks. It's just
Mm.
going to be shit. They'll give you nothing. You'll get nothing out of it.
Yeah.
You'll, what are you doing here? What is this? Like, what's this
Mm.
thing that people keep talking about?
Mm.
And then they'll smile and you will be genuinely shocked how far that will go.
Mm.
And then it's giggles and, each step.
Yeah.
But I think as soon as David was born, and to this day, parenting is not really for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I am shocked, and other people are shocked by that. But it was like the second he was born, I was like, oh, this isn't okay. Like, I was pretty keen to go back to work. I didn't kind of get that all encompassing, like, this is who I am. I've created this person and my whole life is now complete. It was like, oh, I had a baby.
Mm.
Cool. Now, my husband, his life is his children. They are what bring him meaning. It's who he is. He would have two more. He would just, it's like an end to end. This is what he was born to do,
Yeah.
right? Amazing for him. I love that for him. That is not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I am an exceptionally good parent. I'm hyper aware of my own unbelievable good parenting, but it's not who I am.
Mm.
It's not the best thing that ever happened to me. It's a thing that happened to me which I really enjoy. It hasn't completed my life. Like, I think
Yeah.
there are so many of these words that we tell women, or women say, and I'll be honest, they could be completely true for that person. There are
Mm.
some women who that is true for.
Mm.
It's not for me. It doesn't make me less of a parent. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make me work hard, like not work as hard or in any way be different. It's just not, hasn't been that all encompassing feeling.
Mm.
I'm obsessed with my child. Like, he is just the light of my life. He cracks me up. I adore him. And the older he gets, the more I'm like, oh, I'm a toddler plus parent.
Yeah.
I'm not the under one parent. I'm a
Yeah.
from here underwards. So thank God I don't have to have it anymore.
Yeah.
But if I think it's just a case of, when my friends are having babies, I'm probably trying, I don't scare them, but I'm just like, just so you know,
Mm.
it may not be the best thing that ever happened to you. It may not be the worst,
Yeah.
but it may not, if you're looking for your life to be complete, if you're looking for it to somehow mend a relationship or give you a sense of self, it also may not. So
Yeah.
I'm more just like, please be mindful of what you're getting into.
Mm.
Um, and my first question now for women is, what's your community like? So who have you
Mm.
got around you?
Mm.
Has your partner got every, because I always say to people, I was a nanny for 10 years. I had
Mm-hmm.
a really healthy pregnancy. I was medicated. I
Yeah.
had an experienced husband. I had
Mm.
the best mother that there is and the most
Mm.
incredible community, and I was fucked. So if you didn't have experience with children, if you and your partner didn't have experience, or, were anxious, if you didn't have community, if you didn't
Mm.
have, I'm like, I don't understand. I don't understand how you would do it. So I think you can have all of the things, and my community and my husband certainly saved me, and that's probably why I was in the doctor's office in 5 days,
Mm.
is because I couldn't fall far.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
when I hear women now, like, oh, yeah, I had that for 6 months, I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, you were in that state for
Mm.
6 months, years, some
Mm.
women.
Mm.
Why? Because of the baby blues. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's not the baby blues. That's just straight up depression.
Yeah.
And that's not safe for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see you just have no happiness. Like, it's like all the joy. And I have had anxiety. That's depression is a completely different ball game. And that could be from so many factors. But as I said, I had all the factors on my side,
Mm.
and it was still not a disaster. It wasn't great. But imagine if I had a challenging baby, if it
Yeah.
had reflux,
Yeah.
colic. I suppose my experience has made me very hyper aware
Mm.
of women having first time babies. And I will always reach out to women once they've had the baby and say, how are you going?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not like, how are you actually going? Is
Mm.
it fucked? And it's like, is it fucked? Is it
Mm.
not? Amazing. Like, good for you.
Yeah.
But I would say 90% of the time it's fucked.
Mm.
And the fact is, no one can tell you. No one can warn you.
Mm.
No one can tell you that it's going to happen.
Mm.
Um, and I think it's just something I'm very passionate about, just telling women, have babies. Like, don't get me wrong, we're going to keep doing it anyway. But just if you have the capacity to have a few things on your side, if you cry
Yeah.
for more than 2 days, go to a doctor, tell someone.
Mm.
Um, I'm pretty passionate about formula in regards to the level of suffering you're willing to have. Obviously, that's up to the individual, and it's such a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
But for me, breastfeeding just wasn't even. It just wasn't an option because it just wasn't an option,
Yeah.
and I wasn't eating. I couldn't do the work to get my supply up.
Mm.
Um, And thank God that my baby's the best. And I always show people if they're struggling with breastfeeding, I show them photos of him. I'm like, he's the best. This bloke has had like maybe 2 boobs in his life. And he's an absolute legend. And he's
Yeah.
smart and he's funny and he's a lunatic,
Yeah.
And so absolutely do the work if that's something, but not at the cost
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
you, your baby, and how far you're willing to go. Um,
Mm.
but I'm very happy I don't have to have another baby.
Mm.
It's not for me. I'm glad it's hard to say whether or not, knowing I was only ever going to have one, if I was in a different life, if I'd have another.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just because I always knew I was only going to have one. My husband
Yeah.
would like another one.
Mm.
I said, you should do that with your third wife.
Because
I
it's
said,
not
you're
going to be
clearly,
me.
I said, you're clearly fertile, so off you go. But I think the other thing I think I am more mindful of now is how much respect I have for people who've chosen not to have children,
Mm.
because I think society, I think as women, says that that's just, you have children, that's
Mm.
what you do. But I
Mm.
think to choose not to and to go against that by choice, not by fault, like, no, obviously not saying people who can't have children, I mean people who choose it.
Yeah.
I'm like, good for you.
Yeah.
Because when people ask me, I think if they ever said, like, would you recommend having children? I don't think I would say no, but all I would say is you can be happy without them. I
Mm.
think that's the key. It's not that don't have them, but if you think that you can be happy and not have them, you can have a great life. You
Mm.
can, and I have many friends who've chosen not to have children and they have very great lives and they
Mm.
are not lacking.
Mm.
So I think it's a case of you can't be on the fence. It's too hard.
Mm.
Um, it's just has to be something that you want to be really sure of. It's going to ruin your sex life. It's going to change your relationship.
Yeah.
It's going to change your body, your mind, your life,
Mm.
everything.
Mm.
It is, I would say it's worth it now. Like, as far as, yeah, I adore David. He's just the absolute best. And I am so happy I had him, and I'm
Yeah.
happy we've got here. But I think if someone said, I'm not sure, I'm like, great, don't have them.
Mm.
don't have one. If you're 37 and you're like, I don't really know, great. You'll have a great life. You will do amazing things. You will be fulfilled. You will do great stuff. You will have incredible relationships. You will form connection.
Mm.
You will be very happy and you will be fine.
Yeah, you'll be a
But
whole
don't,
person.
you probably, and you'll be way richer.
But very pricey, aren't they?
Actually, it's not even that they're pricey. I think it's just more a case of your choices are just limited.
Mm.
Am I going to send them to a private school? What does that look like for my financial future?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Is
in,
that in the cards? Like when I book a holiday, then it's like I've got to consider all the extra seats and yeah, there's a lot of extra considerations that it adds to
yeah,
everything. Everything, even how long can I spend in the toilet this morning? Like,
he's never. It's so funny because I think David and I. He's obsessed with me, but not in the way that I've seen other kids be obsessed with their mums, if that makes sense. I think
yeah,
the nature of maybe it's how it started.
yeah.
We have no element of codependency. Like
Hmm.
he is an independent little thing. He and I, we live our lives. Like he doesn't need to be by my side all the time. He's usually
Mm.
just doing his thing.
Yeah.
Um, I'm still his preferred person.
Mm.
And certainly when he's sad or tired, he'll want me.
Mm.
But we just don't have that kind of, I couldn't ever put him down. I'm like, oh, that's never been a problem for me. I could always put him down. He didn't
Yeah.
require. I bought a baby carrier,
Yeah.
didn't use it. He just
Yeah.
didn't need it. He didn't want that level.
Yeah,
I don't
one of
know.
my
I was
friends is the same. They're like, my baby just didn't, it just didn't vibe
no,
for us. Like,
we're just not that close. Like
yeah.
I know it
Yeah.
sounds really funny, but it's just like even now at daycare, like I drop him off and he's like, bye, bye, mummy. I'm like, every now and then he might go, oh, I'm like, no, we're not, that's not who we are.
Yeah.
But we're very close, as in, he's obsessed with me and I'm obsessed with him. But again, it's interesting based on my relationship to him and how that's formed.
Yeah.
He, is easily go to others and he's also a fourth child. So, I'm mindful there's a bunch of elements that come at play.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but and again, as I say, I am mindful even in going forward in my story, I've got a pretty good thing going on. I've
Mm.
got a very experienced husband. I can't imagine living with someone that didn't know exactly what they were doing.
Mm.
Even to this day, he is the better parent. He's more patient. He's on the ground with him, he's that really engaged parent. And I'm just like, oh God, you're way better at this because you also like it so
Mm.
much more than I do.
Mm.
Um, I don't feel bad about that. I'm
Yeah.
exceptionally good in my own way.
Mm.
I'm exceptionally good. I don't lose 1 ounce of sleep over guilt of my ability.
Mm.
But again, I think, you'll know more than anyone when you have children, if you can play to your strengths as people and somehow those strengths can go side by side and it makes sense, then do that. Don't try and be a
Mm.
hero. If they're
Yeah.
good with playing with the kid, great, play with the kid. I'll do the dishes. I
Yeah.
don't want to play with that, cars and trains and whatever that you're doing over there.
Mm.
I was like, I'll do this bit. That sounds way more interesting to me.
Yeah.
But not trying to force, like, oh, well, that's your job. And it's like, no, just do what we're good at. And he's good at parenting and I'm good at keeping the house, but I'm good at the household running. I pack the bags, I make the
Yeah.
food, I get
Yeah.
his bag ready, I do bedtime, as in that stuff is also really important. And
Mm.
I still have mum guilt,
Mm.
of course,
Mm.
but it's not enough to make me then change behaviors.
Yeah.
But I still, to this day, I have a very involved mum and dad who take David once a week.
Hmm.
He goes to daycare 3 times a week. I work full time. That was also something. As soon as I had a baby, I went, stay at home, mum. It's not for me. Couldn't think of
Yeah.
anything worse. And that was
Yeah.
like the day he was born. I went, oh, no, absolutely not. I was like, oh, I'm going to enjoy this time because I'm only having one kid.
Yeah.
But I also think maybe with mothers as well is to give the advice of just wait and
Mm.
see.
Mm.
You might want to stay home, but don't assume. You might not.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if you've always dreamed of being that mum, like I stayed home more with Lila because obviously I was housebound at the time, so I wasn't going anywhere. But I didn't like being like I'm not that mum who's at home making the creative lunches and doing the arts and crafts and like making the fancy birthday parties. I'm actually really shit at all that stuff. Um, and my kids are okay with that. Like I'll sometimes paint with them, but most of the time it's like I'm cooking dinner and organizing whatever. You do
Mhm.
your kid thing. I'm good at
Yeah.
bouncing on the trampoline and like being an
I get
idiot, but
sweaty. I get sweaty. I'm really
yeah.
good at singing the Wiggles. So I have like whatever, I have a skill set where I can listen to the same Wiggles song 7,000 times and it doesn't bother me. Like
Oh,
I
yeah,
can
no, I
listen to
can't
the
do that.
same, yeah, I know. Again, it's like I have this
I
magic
can't.
power,
Yeah.
but it's like, but I can do that. How
Mm.
much Bluey do you want to watch? How much list do you want to listen to? I'm here for you.
Yeah.
I'm screen time mum. I'm here
Yeah.
for it. I love it. We watch it together. I love TV.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not a craft mum. I couldn't think of
Mm. Yeah,
anything
I can't do the
worse.
craft.
I'm not going to let him cook with me. Nah, don't come in the kitchen and I'm going to pretend like you can crack an egg and like that's just not who I am. You can't crack an egg. You can't. You've got no skill set for that.
Yeah.
Maybe when he's older, but
Mm.
for me, I'm very happy paying someone to do that
Yeah.
through daycare.
Yeah.
Um, I have one kid, so again, financially, daycare is, people talk a lot about daycare. It's not a big stretch for us.
Yeah.
It's one kid, 3 days a week. It's not a lot, and especially considering I don't want to do the craft.
Mm.
Um, I'm really happy to pay someone to do
Yeah.
craft with him.
Yeah.
I have started, I would say this year, he's about to be 2. I've started doing more structured classes. So I take him to a music class now and we do swimming lessons.
Mm.
Love it. Would go to all of them.
Yeah.
Love. It's the best. It's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm really better with structured. I'd rather pay someone and I'm happy to do it with him,
Mm.
but I don't want to do it in my house.
Mm.
Um, so I think, again, it's just whatever this vision is of this mother ironically I'm kind of a weird trad wife. How like I keep house, I like cooking and cleaning and taking care of my family, so I have that element.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look like, I don't want my kid with me doing it, and I don't want to,
Yeah.
I probably will bake him cupcakes for his school and that will be handmade and it will have like a rainbow swirl. I did that for my stepdaughter,
Yeah.
and it was like I will actually do all that
Yeah.
really traditional stuff, but it's while I'm working full time and because I enjoy it. It's not
Mm.
because I expect it, but also I think it's just I'm not going to play trucks. I'm not
Yeah.
going to take him to see diggers like
Yeah.
down. My husband will be like, "There's diggers down the street. That's amazing. You should go and see those diggers." It's
Yeah.
so boring. Um, but again, I have also I'm not a single mother.
Yeah.
Seriously, single mothers deserve all the things.
Mm.
I don't understand. Like, what do you
Yeah.
mean you do it on your own? How? I need more info. How? How do you
Yeah.
have, what about twins?
Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
what, what do you,
I
two
know.
days?
It's yeah. I don't know. And I mean, I think there's a lot of times where you just like one of my friends had twins and she's amazing, but she also muddles through in a lot of ways,
Mm.
and like I think you just do what you can do. Um, but there's a lot of expectation that women are gonna fit into this Earth Mother role, and when you don't, it's really it feels loaded to turn around and say, I don't fit this mold and I don't want to.
Also, to say that you maybe don't enjoy it as
Mm,
much as you, especially I would say more at the start. Now I enjoy it. I think it's hilarious.
yeah.
Because again, toddlers, I'm like, people keep warning me about a toddler. I'm like, this is great. I love the big feelings. What a drama queen. It's hilarious. I love the theatrics.
Yeah.
Throw yourself to the floor. You go, girl. Um, but I think the best thing about having a newborn for me was that I could watch whatever I wanted.
Mm,
Now I have to watch what he wants. That was my biggest struggle. Like, as in, it's just like, there is nothing for me with this newborn. What are we doing here?
yeah.
What is this? I didn't want to go for people going for walks.
Mm.
I don't want to go for a walk. I
It
want to go
gets
to the
old very
gym.
quick, doesn't it?
Yeah. I want to go to the gym and then I want you to stay here
Yeah.
and I'll come back. As in, I think I'm also very lucky in my best girlfriends do not have babies.
Yeah.
And I think I have, it sounds really bad, but kind of some of the upsides of being disconnected in a way from the traditional motherhood has been I've been able to keep my identity very close to the person I was before,
Mm,
because I didn't let it all encompass me. And again, if we just look at the upsides of, I suppose, elements of being disconnected, is that one of the things I was most worried about having a baby was I was going to change heaps, because I kind of have honed my personality of, I've got a, in case you can't tell, I've got a big personality. And over the years, I've honed it in a way that I like it now. And I've actually really worked really hard to become this person I really enjoy.
yeah.
And I was actually really worried that I would change a lot having a baby. I was like,
Mm,
actually don't want to change. I really like myself.
mm,
Um, but because I didn't get all encompassed in it, I haven't changed. I think my best girlfriends would say I haven't changed at all.
mm,
And the people I spend time with, more often than not, don't have children. If it's, my best friends. Now I have formed friends with people who have babies, and of course you do that element, but
yeah.
my best girlfriends, I don't take David with me because I want to be with them, connect with them, talk to them, and you can't do that with a toddler.
Mm,
So I've, again, lucky to have a husband who's really experienced and has been home a lot. I can leave him and go and do my social things.
mm,
And so I would say I haven't changed almost at all, except, I have a small person and maybe my freedom is slightly different.
yeah.
But having people who don't have kids around has been really helpful, because I think it helps you continue to connect with yourself, who you were before, if that was someone that you wanted to stay connected with.
Yeah.
Um, because, yeah, I remember thinking, what if I turn into like a crazy helicopter parent? What if I'm one of those mothers that doesn't, let's say kids try nuts in a hospital parking lot, you
Yeah.
know? What
Yeah.
if, and again, I remember my husband saying, I won't let you. I'm like, I don't know if you have that kind of power.
Yeah.
I think those things,
Mum's gonna do what a mum's gonna do.
yeah, I was like, even to this day, as in, it's shocking, I suppose, the things that you become really intense about.
Yeah.
Because I'm very laid back as a parent. And again, I'm married to an older man who's got a very laid back approach to parenting. And actually, it's just the best. I love that we both have this kind of, he's fine. He's fine. Not to the point where it's,
Yeah.
encouraging toxic masculinity, but it's also like he's pretty tough little cookie.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's very much, I've maintained exactly the same person I was before.
Yeah.
Um, and that's by keeping the connections of people who don't have children,
Mm,
and keeping that social life. And just don't take your kid. If you want to catch up with someone, don't take them.
mm.
If you have the absolute privilege of that as an option.
Yeah. Yeah, because
That's
I went out with some friends for lunch when Juliet was like two and a bit, and you just like these were friends that didn't have kids. You don't get to say anything. You are
no.
just running back and forth, putting, like just, you can't even listen because
Mm.
you're all over the shop. And I don't think people who haven't yet had kids understand that it's a whole different world in the sense that you don't have that capacity to be present in the way you once were. And I
Mm.
think that's something that is really confronting when you have a child and you do feel like you've lost your identity and you don't have any space to find that again. So I think that's amazing that you kept that sense of yourself going, because that can be one of the scariest things when you go, I don't know who I am anymore.
Yeah. And there are certainly, maybe probably more as a wife and a partner, that you probably lose that a lot.
Mm,
Um, there's a privilege of being married to previously married man,
yeah.
who is willing to learn from previous mistakes. And I suppose
Mm,
identify that, because I'm like, I remember just now, even now, I'm just like, how do I not just fully resent you? Like, how do I not just continue to resent you and find you super annoying and want to leave you? Like, is there a way around that?
yeah.
Because right now I want to kill you.
Yeah.
And I'm still, again, depending on the listenerhood of this, I, I think marriage is a bit of a trap for working women. I think marriage and parenting is set up for the man to be the breadwinner and
Mm,
the woman to be somehow at home or, subordinate financially. When you're a full-time working female who earns more, if out earns your partner, it's sometimes a bit like, what exactly is it that you're bringing? Because I'm very clear about what I'm bringing to the table.
Mm,
Um, Being someone who manages a household and manages feelings, and I guess runs a pretty tight ship myself. I'm a project manager by nature and project manager at home. And sometimes I'm like, I'm very clear what I'm bringing to the table, sometimes a bit less clear what I'm getting out of this.
mm,
Because I think traditionally what marriage was is that, a woman nurtures and a
mm,
man brings financially, and that you get the benefit of that, right?
yeah,
Financial benefit. I
yeah,
don't get that because I'm financially independent.
mm,
So for me, it's a bit like, what exactly is it that's in this for me? I
mm.
have not yet answered that question. And oh, the light just went off in this office. One second. That's hilarious. Um, I I have not yet figured out the answer. I think marriage, parenting, motherhood is in our current society not set up for full-time working mothers, because we just give so much, and I'm still kind of, I don't think society is kind of in many ways set up for that. It's a bit of a strange one. It's not enough to be separated. It's not enough in any of that. It's just more of it's an interesting kind of like the patriarchy
Mm,
has formed something, and it's just more of an inquiry. And I talk, I'm an open book, especially with my husband, and I explained that to him. I said, it's kind of be, and he agrees. He's like, yeah, society is set up for the man to be the breadwinner and the woman to be subordinate to that.
mm,
And when you're not, it's a bit like, okay.
mm,
So again, it's a very interesting thing to continue to mull on.
mm,
Um, and see how that plays out. Again, I think my husband's probably the best parent I've ever met. And as far as his ability to give to his children, and to live fully for them,
mm,
good for him. Um, but, amazing for him, but not for me. Again, I'm not less of a person because of it.
mm,
But being in a heteronormative cisgendered relationship is when we have quite traditional gender roles as well. I am
mm.
more of that maternal housekeeper, and he is more that like Viking style wood chopper.
He's very much a Viking, isn't
He's
he?
such a vibe. And so we do have really traditional gender roles. We
Yeah.
do. And we actually both thrive in
Mm,
traditional gender roles.
mm,
But the rest of it is like interesting. I was like, because we have to be really actively working
mm,
to make it work for us based on having 4 kids. you know, uh, Income can be up and down based on how life is, and divorce
mm,
for him, and
mm,
lived my life in my 20s for me. Um, so I think that can be also, I would say that's probably the biggest mental drain at the moment, is trying to maintain positivity and just trying not to become a couple that's let resentment
mm,
fester over
mm.
time. It's like, well, I did this for you today, like, and you didn't
Mm.
even say thank you. It's like
Yeah.
you become like a meme of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
some. It's I feel like I've just become like a caricature of like something that's like, well, I do so much for you, and you didn't even say thank you, and I asked you to unstack the dishwasher and you didn't do it. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I know. It's like, you don't understand how much, and I'm like, oh God, I hate myself, but it's true.
What what would you like to see in this space, in the motherhood space, in the marriage space? Like, what do you think can, point us in the right direction?
I think there is some really, again, literature, which I think like Kaz Cook was kind of a bit of she wrote those books kind of up the duff back
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
Which, if you look now in hindsight, having had the baby, you're like, oh God, these were actually very good.
Mm.
There's a lot of really great TV shows. So there's a Canadian one, I think, called Working Mums.
Yeah.
And then there was an Australian one, apologies, I don't remember, but it was a really amazing insight into working mother parenting, especially.
Yeah.
I think the biggest influence will be women explaining to their friends who are about to have babies the
Mm.
reality of what they're about to experience. Now, not to scare them, but to say these are some potential things that you should have in place,
Mm.
and be ready for. You may not need. But asking kind of, so what's your community like? So
Mm.
do you have a parent mum here? Is someone going to, come and help you? And I guess if you ask those leading questions and you kind of see some flags that you don't have to point out, but when they have the baby, just go, how are you doing? Can I bring you food? Can I send you something?
Mm.
Um, I don't, it's almost as a society, it's no one can warn you. It's like, it sounds like a cop out.
Mm.
No one can warn you. Just imagine if someone told you it's going to be really hard. You'd be like, okay,
Yeah,
is it?
I had exact I think I said to you with Lila, I had the same
Yeah.
experience and I said I'm gonna have to give her to my parents. I have to give her to my parents. I can't have the baby. Like I can't do this.
Yeah. I remember going, like, I just remember going, well, I can't do this. So, like, what's the plan?
Yeah. Yeah, what are we gonna do? Do we take him back to the hospital or
I was
like
like,
what?
and I was like, well, Bruce is going to just leave me and take him. I was like, and I'll be fine. So I think
Yeah.
it's hard, but I think it's almost up to each individual person and their people. Now, of course, you can still continue to have famous people who are really open about it. And, I've got some great influence I follow who have, there's a great podcast I listen to called Eat, Sleep, Shit, Repeat.
Hmm.
It's epic. It's epic. It's great.
Yeah.
And one of the influences from that is just being I think I saw her when she had a baby and she was fucked for like a year and really like honest about it.
Mm.
So I think that if you want it, it is there, but
Mm.
I truly do not think anyone can warn you. And I think
Mm.
outside of just continuing to say to the women in our lives, it's really fucked. And I remember the best message I ever got, and I try this, is someone messaged me, I think about 3 days after David was born, at about 3 o'clock in the morning. And
Yeah.
she said, welcome to the Early Morning Mums Club. She
Yeah.
said, this is a time of which I'm awake, other mums are awake, and you are now part of this club. And it was the best message I
Yeah.
ever got. And I now
Yeah.
send that to people who've got new babies saying, hey, just so you know, I'm also awake.
Yeah.
At
Yes. That's
And
solidarity.
it's beautiful. And it's like, like, oh, that's right. This is like something that women go through. And
Mm.
again, remind yourself, if you're in it, people have more kids.
Mm.
So it must get better. It
Hmm.
must. And it's horrible to say it does, and quickly.
Mm.
It actually gets better quite quickly
Mm.
because it smiles,
Mm.
laughs.
Yeah.
Again, these days, there is no hug he gives me that isn't the best hug I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
It is shocking how
Yeah.
far,
Yeah.
every time he says mummy, and he says it 7,000 times a day, it's
Yeah.
never annoying. Again, he's not even 2 yet, so I'm mindful that may change. It's every mummy isn't annoying, every cuddle, every single laugh. It's
Mm.
genuinely hilarious. It is
Mm.
never old and it's
Mm.
never less incredible. And it happens quick.
Mm.
Probably by 6 months, I was probably like, this is the best bloke in the
Mm.
whole wide world.
Mm.
Um, but you gotta just, you gotta get
Yeah.
there. But I think also a bit the same with epidurals. You don't have to earn your baby.
Mm.
It's like with an epidural. It's like, you don't need to earn this. Like, you can just make it a little bit easier for yourself if you need, as in,
Yeah.
you don't have to go through pain for this. It's going to be
Mm.
painful enough. Don't worry.
Mm.
Um, it doesn't, I don't think it represents your ability to parent or make you any better.
Mm.
Like, if you want to take them drugs, girl, you rest through it's going to be hard. You're going to recover and it's going to be horrendous.
Mm.
It's the same with potential medication, help. It's like, you don't need to suffer for your
Yeah.
baby. You don't need to earn it.
Mm.
You will earn your baby by barely growing it and having it.
Mm.
You don't need to suffer to earn. And I feel like even now to this day, it's like I will be medicated forever
Mm.
because I don't need to suffer for it.
Mm.
If there's something that can make my life easier, like daycare,
Mm.
um, or anything I can do that will help support me. I don't need to earn him. I did earn him.
Mm.
I earn him by being his mum and loving him and supporting him and building this really great human.
Yeah.
But I think you just don't suffer. Don't suffer for it.
Yeah.
Don't suffer for your kid.
Yeah.
No one will thank you. Just
Mm.
kids, certainly. I've got teenage boys and you've got a 9-year-old girl. They will not thank you.
Yeah.
They will never thank you
Yeah.
for suffering, you
Yeah.
know? Um, and all you'll have is gaps in your memory from when you were so sad. Um,
Yeah. I what was the thing that stuck out to you the most about your sadness? Like I know you were saying you couldn't
it was
swallow.
the eating. It was literally, I could not get food into my
Yeah.
guts. It
Yeah.
was so weird.
So that was the biggest warning sign for you, like this is not okay.
Yeah, it was like this, and that was depression as opposed to anxiety, which I'd had my whole life.
Yeah.
And it was the crying.
Yeah.
There was a lot of crying.
Yeah.
But I think that the not being able to eat was
Mm.
just like so strange. I couldn't. I was toast. I remember trying to eat toast and I couldn't
Mm.
chew it, and it felt like I was trying to swallow like tambark, and
Yeah.
I had to wash it down like a pill. Like I was
Yeah.
like taking a pill,
Yeah.
and so I think that's why I think 2 days of crying is probably enough.
Mm.
And that's where it's time to go to the doctor. And it doesn't have to be lack of eating. It doesn't have to be, but I think it's that feeling of it's the crying.
Mm.
Because I'm not, I mean, I'm a crier, but this is just like a sadness that you think will never leave you. And I remember when I was like, again, in that week, my parents came over and was like, you guys go to a park and sit on a bench and sit in the sun and we'll take care of the baby.
Mm.
And we did that. We sat. I remember, it's so dark. We were sitting next to the park. You know, you go to this little cafe and there's a park there and there's all these kids. And I was
Mm.
just like, they all look so happy with their kids. And I was crying, thinking, like, I don't want mine. I was like, but
Mm.
everyone here seems so happy to have theirs. Ironically, we go to that park now and we have a really good time.
Now you're one of those mums.
Yeah, but it's just like, but everyone seems to be enjoying their families, and
Yeah.
I'm hating this.
Mm.
Um, I think again, just if that's more than a few days, go to a doctor,
Mm.
you know, and just go to a GP and just say, look, I'm having a really hard time. Like I'm just not feeling joy. And if
Mm.
you're someone who wants to breastfeed, it will impact that.
Mm-hmm.
So you will have to do some of that work to be able to breastfeed. And if that's something that is important to you, then please, you know, that's even more of a reason to seek that help. But I think you have to go to the GP so frequently already.
Yeah.
Just be like, I'm not okay. I'm
Mm-hmm.
really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a good GP who's worth their weight in gold will help you.
Mm.
Um, and that's why I said, you know, don't get me wrong. You will be sad for a few days. You'll cry a lot. You know, that will all
Yeah.
happen.
I think it's day three that the you get the drop and you feel quite
Yeah.
sad and
Yeah.
it feels it feels intense, but I think what stuck out to me is you saying I've ruined our lives, like that thought.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
no, but because it's that
Ugh.
feeling of like I can't take this back now, and
No.
it's a devastating feeling to have. And I think that
Yeah.
that for me would be like where I would go, okay, there's something more going on here than that hormone drop.
Yeah. And it's not funny. It
Mm.
is not funny. And I
Yeah.
think also, again, the lack of connection to the baby, I think you can probably not have postpartum depression, but still not feel that connection for about 6 weeks. Like I have a friend who's just had a baby,
Mm.
and I think she'd had it, she was a bit like yourself. She'd had a baby and then had another baby like 7, 8 years later,
Yeah.
and she'd forgotten it was fucked. She'd forgotten.
You do forget, and then you
You
go, oh
forget.
shit. Yeah.
But she wasn't depressed,
Yeah.
you know, so it was like, oh God, this is the worst, but she wasn't depressed. So she didn't need medical attention. She wasn't, you know,
Mm.
just like, ugh. But she also knew 6 weeks, you know,
Mm.
give that kid a smile and off it, you will chip away at that.
Yeah.
So you don't have to reach the all-time lows, you know, that
Mm.
I couldn't eat lows.
Mm.
But I think it's just, again, I'm in a family where, because I'm so close with my parents, I can't fall very far.
Mm.
Again, it's also a privilege. You know, I've got so many privileges in so many elements. But I think if there's someone that you trust, that you know won't let you fall very far, just make sure you ask them to keep an eye on you.
Yeah.
They know you pretty well, potentially someone in your life. It could be a friend, it could be, a family member, even a doctor. If you're like, these are things that if I'm keep an eye on me, hopefully it's another mother. If you know mothers, have them visit you. Again, that solidarity, I found that really helpful. I didn't see anyone who wasn't a mother for a few weeks until I felt like I could pretend everything was fine. Because, you don't want your best friend coming over who's never had a baby. You're absolutely fucked. And then they're like, this is fucked. And they're like, is it? You want someone there that's like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and someone that can tell you, yes, it is, and it feels bad for a lot of people, and you'll make it through.
And you'll feel better quickly.
Yeah.
And it'll be fast. But just don't be a hero. No one needs it, and no one will thank you. It's truly the only way I can think about it. And get some sun, drink water, do all the things you're supposed to do.
Yeah, get some air, get out of the house.
It doesn't have to be, don't need to go for a walk if that does not inspire you.
Yeah.
Sit on a chair outside. Your baby doesn't care. They're a blob. They will sit outside with you and do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is pretty much it for me.
Yeah.
I think that's the extent of my story.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. I think it's really important to hear different voices, and there's lots of saturation of like motherhood is the best, and newborns are the best, and the reality can be really different, and it's important that you have those points of reference so that it doesn't happen to you and you go, oh my God, what's wrong with me?
I think you'll still think that. I think it's the nature
probably.
of, but as I said, it's hindsight is a gift, I suppose.
Yeah.
And again, I don't regret the little thing. He's hilarious. I love him. He's just the absolute joy in my life.
Yeah.
If I could do it again, that'd be interesting. If I had all the information I had today, it'd be I remember actually my cousin, who's one of my closest friends, she's got 2 girls. She said to me, if I had all the information, I wouldn't do it. If I knew everything I knew now, I wouldn't do it. And she told me that years before I had a child. And my God, it's true. I actually know it's true. I actually don't think, I think I would still do it.
Yeah.
But I found that to be like really honest.
Yeah.
If she knew everything she knew now, all the effects it would have on her life, she wouldn't do it again. It doesn't matter. It's done. They're there. And she's a great parent. But again, I think it's just keep someone close to you who knows when you've fallen.
Yeah.
And
keep your community close.
Go to a doctor. Just go to a doctor. Like, don't be a hero. Don't own your baby.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing.
Welcome.
If people want to reach out to you, are they able to?
Yeah, absolutely. I can give you an email to include somewhere. Yeah, I love a yarn. Love a chat. I'm always happy to share stories. I love a play date because it's less work for me.
I'm like that too. I'm like, yes, someone's entertaining my kid. Great.
I know. But yeah, no, anyone can reach out to me. I'm always open, especially, people who've had kids or just general anxiety in general. Again, I've had such a privileged life. I have no excuse for anxiety other than I just think everyone has it. So
it's just human.
It's just is what it is. Life is too hard. Don't suffer.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Us Anxious Folk podcast, the podcast for the chronically overwhelmed, perpetually panicked, anxious folk in all of us. If you would like to find more about me, you can find me on YouTube at Lauren Rose or on Instagram at LaurenR_Rose.